Even though you disagree with Kamala Harris politically, do you feel some kinship towards her as a mixed person?
Not personally. I find a lot of her trajectory to not be my brand of woman or leader. We've got 3 major international crises going on and someone applying to be commander-in-chief. As a woman, I want to see you do more than, appeal to giggling and having a girl moment on the stage.
The biggest selling point for Kamala Harris is that she's not Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden was old, slow, boring, which is probably the worst sin of all. Okay, so now, of course, that she's in the race, she's given the Democrats something to be hopeful for, right? Because she's vibrant and young and a woman and multiracial. And even though she has all of the exact same policies as Joe Biden, she's completely different, a completely new candidate. So they're happy to have her. Now, of course, she just gave her first interview as the candidate for the Democrat Party, but it didn't go quite as well as the Democrats hoped. But who cares? You have Kamala now as the nominee and Joe Biden is gone, which is what you really wanted in the first place, as is pointed out here by Bill Maher.
Many times when I'm encouraging people to run, especially more women, to run for office, nothing more wholesome than our political process than that. Aren't we excited about...
Yes, and sometimes you're discouraging people to run. We're not going to get into that.
No,
whatever.
People make their own decisions.
Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. And but I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for what you didn't do. Last question. But when Joe stepped down, did you want it to be an open convention as opposed to going right to Kamala?
Well, here's the plan. Kamala, it was open. Anybody could have gotten in. She wrapped it up. You have to give her credit for that.
I do, totally. And the Democratic Party, you know what? That's the smartest thing they did. Because they just had a big internal fight. They couldn't afford another one. They would have looked like we always think, oh, they're disorganized, and they just got their you-know-what together.
All right, couple of things there. First, Bill Maher is hilariously pointing out how the Democrats' mystique about Joe Biden stepping down voluntarily, right, releasing that grasp of power in a George Washington-esque moment is complete garbage. We all know exactly what happened. Nancy Pelosi put forward the phone call and said, hey, all the donations are done until you step down. You have no path to victory. So Joe Biden, of course, says, hey, okay, Kamala. And then magically Kamala becomes the candidate. And this is where Bill Maher is the most disappointing. He's recently come out and has some great stances on certain topics, but he's still a huge leftist. He actually says, do you wish we had an open convention instead of just putting Kamala in right away? And Nancy Pelosi's like, we totally did have an open convention, right? Anybody could have got in there, but it was Kamala who wrapped it up. Too sweet. It's like bull crap. You would have opened up a new round of primaries, had people come out of the woodwork saying, hey, nominate me, nominate me. All those delegates of Joe Biden's are up for grabs. But instead, Kamala Harris was chosen, handpicked by someone somewhere to be the next puppet, right, of the deep state. So this is where we're at, and it's very disappointing that Bill Maher fell in line so quickly with her reasoning, right? Oh, the Democrats, thank goodness, yeah, they wrapped that up really quick, because otherwise they would have looked slow and stupid, as opposed to looking like a bunch of mindless automatons who are going to go with whatever the establishment says they're going to do. But of course, the big story is Kamala's recent interview on CNN and how it didn't go that well for her, right? And I want to look at a bunch of the weaknesses that were actually seen by Frank Luntz.
But I was not impressed as an observer and someone who was expecting more from her with this much time to get prepared. First, and I call it DOD, which is day one detail. She gave child tax credits, a housing credit. She should have had something for day one, for the first hour, the first day, the first week, the first month, and the first year. It's the most important thing voters are looking for to see whether you're serious. She really didn't itemize much more than her talking points. Second, it's not inflation, it's affordability. And the fact is, food, fuel, housing, and healthcare has become so much more expensive. She said she understood it, but she didn't give ideas to address it and to solve it. Third, she emphasized repeatedly, my values haven't changed, because she's being accused of being a flip-flopper. It's not values, that's about her. It's priorities, because that's about all of us. Number four, you deserve She talked once again as though it was still a convention speech. She did not itemize exactly what the people of the United States deserve in terms of their president, in terms of, in her case, her policies. Number 5, the C word. She talked about consensus and a little bit about common ground. It's really common sense because voters are not looking for an ideological president. They're looking for someone who can get things done, a real record of results.
Kamala Harris didn't have any specifics. What's she going to do day one? How's she going to differentiate herself from the Biden regime, which is widely unpopular? What are you going to do to actually fix inflation or the cost of things, all right? None of these were actually answered. She danced around topics. She spoke on platitudes, didn't give any specifics. And that, of course, is the main takeaway that many people are actually having. And of course, the big one is the flip-flopping, right? She hasn't changed on any of her core values, even though you're on tape saying exactly the opposite things. It's truly hilarious. But Senator Kennedy frames this in a very interesting way because he has such a great way with words. Check this out.
I had 2 reactions to her interview. Unsurprised, unimpressed. I'm a pretty simple guy. I like breakfast food and straight answers. I didn't hear any straight answers from the vice president. What I heard her say basically was, I do too have values. And if you don't like them, I have others. I thought she engaged in tier 1 level pandering. It was sort of like a wolf promising to be a vegan if the sheep will just vote for it. Now look, in politics, as in life, and you know this, Jason, talk is cheap. What you do is what you believe. What you do is what you believe. And everything else is just cottage cheese.
I love Senator Kennedy. He phrases everything in such an entertaining facade that it really gets right to the core of the point. And the point is Kamala Harris. How has she acted? How has she been part of the government versus everything she's saying, right? Everything she's trying to sell to the public, right? He goes right to the core with it. And yeah, most of all, this was a disappointing press conference. And what stood out to me the most was the fact that Kamala Harris was sitting there answering questions, and I didn't really detect any authority, any power, anything that says she could rise up to the occasion when things get tough, right? Say in case war breaks out, okay? I don't see anything in her that would be, hey, I'm a true leader. I'm going to rise up to this occasion and lead this country, right? I see someone who would blame everyone else, give a silly speech that doesn't mean anything, and then simply move on and brush off. That's what I saw. But of course, all this talk about her maintaining her core values, how they haven't changed, led to another viral ad for the Trump campaign. Check this out.
My values have not changed.
Reduce red meat specifically. Yes.
The Boston Marathon bomber, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, and I'm in favor of banning fracking.
I am prepared to pass a Green New Deal.
I support a mandatory buyback program.
We're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals.
The idea that more police equals more safety, that's just wrong.
Policing, as we know, goes all the way back to slave patrols and that idea.
Yeah, you are absolutely right.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
We need to take a look at these budgets.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should.
70 to 80% tax rate.
I think that's fantastic.
Chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas?
And yeah, I am radical. I do believe that we need to get radical about what we are doing.
The reason why ads like this are effective is because the vast majority of Americans have no clue what Kamala Harris has actually done in her political career. What are her personal beliefs? And these will end up destroying her if they actually get sent out to the public. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.